Very good evening to all the esteemed speakers today and the panelists today. First of all, thanks for inviting me to be here as a chief observer. Yes, the very interesting topic, national education policy, which has been talked about a lot.
I would like to call Mr. Aashish Kumar, sir. So, sir, kindly introduce yourself. You have total of 8 minutes, and then please throw some lights on today's topic. Over to you, Aashish, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening to the respected panelists and all the amazing speakers on the podium today. It is indeed a privilege to be in such esteemed company of distinguished speakers and educationists. My name is Aashish Kumar, and I am a director in an IT multinational, also a yoga and fitness enthusiast, and president of Mastering Leadership Toastmaster Club. I want to share my own personal experience on how I was educated and what it meant for me, and why I am so enthusiastic about the national education policy now. So in my view, the national education policy is a long-awaited course correction of India's education system, which focused more on memorizing, alignment to existing thought patterns, and focus on archaic and very outdated knowledge that did not take care of creativity and skill building. I myself am a product of this education system, and I'm sorry to say that I had to unlearn almost everything to be able to compete with international co-workers and to be successful. So whatever we were taught in schools, in colleges, even our engineering institutions, were more or less something that we had to let go of to be able to learn new things and to be able to compete with international people. So to that extent, the national education policy can be considered as a very imperative move on the part of the government to rejuvenate the stagnating education system and to also accelerate the economy by preparing the workforce to counter the demands of a technical, kind of an information-based economy, and also an economy based on creativity and new thought patterns. So here I'm attempting to highlight the benefits that I see from the various features that have been introduced, and to also see how that would change the course of India. So let's go one by one, and I would talk about different features and what it means for me personally as a person who has been educated here, and also somebody who wants to hire people in the future to be able to do things and compete at an international forum. So the NEP by 2025, it promises to kind of expose at least half of the student population to vocational education. Now, since the dawn of this century, different educators around the world, they have been saying that there needs to be an integration between education and skill building. In India, we have never looked at that. So for us, education meant a very, very rigid curriculum, which we were supposed to study, memorize, and then kind of vomit in the examination. And the person who's able to memorize the most and take out that information the most is the one who's very successful. Whether you talk about education or whether you talk about a lot of very esteemed examinations in India, like IAS and the civil services and all, they focus a lot on memorization. This is a very, you can say, archaic way of judging people, and more programmed to create people who are more like workers, who can work in a factory, who can work in a job, and who are not supposed to be having original thought or thinking anything new. These are people who are supposed to be compliant, and they're very well suited the kind of government or the occupiers that we had before we became free as a nation. Another key feature of the NEP is the National Research Program. So this is kind of set to encourage us towards better research quality. Right now, I was very saddened to see that a number of different research papers from very esteemed organizations, esteemed educational organizations in the country were actually suspect and plagiarized from different people, and those researchers actually had to face legal action. So we kind of do not encourage original thought, and that is the reason why people are more inclined to copy, even when they are doing their doctorate degrees. So the rot goes very high up in the hierarchy in terms of education. So the other feature that I feel very useful would be the opening up to foreign players for education. So the top 100 universities would be invited to set up campuses in the country, And that would open up a lot of world-class education for people in this country that has been severely lacking. And we have had no avenues to international levels of education or different pedagogy methods, except going overseas and studying there, which required tons of money and could be bankrupting for most people in India. So this is a very welcome move from the government. Another feature which I feel is very important is the transformation and rejuvenation of the examination system. So previous examination system, as I mentioned earlier, it relied heavily on memorization and cramming. So the more you could cram, the more successful you would be in the examination. And that is something that is set to change, because the foundation would be on the basic knowledge of the subject, and that's how the students are supposed to be evaluated going forward, rather than what they could remember from what they studied in the class. So this I feel is one of the most welcome changes there. The other moot point in my view is women. So in our country, women have always received the shorter end of the stick when it comes to opportunities to uplift their careers and to empower themselves. So families with lower income or families with a lot of children, too many children, they preferred schooling the boys rather than the girls, because they felt that the boys would earn the living for them and would be able to support them in the future. So the NEP plan to set up a gender inclusion fund, in my view, will help in neutralizing the disparity in this ratio between a boy and girl education. So this is one of the most revolutionizing features of the NEP as it stands right now. Also, the national mission on the foundation of literacy and numeracy, it will put into action at least a minimal knowledge of literacy and numeracy. Until now, the focus has primarily been on learning English. The better you speak English, the more educated you are expected to be, and the more people would hire you, and the more salary you can demand, and the more polished your English is, the better opportunities you have. In my view, that has been something that has held down our nation for very long, and it's high time that we change that and we move on to multiple languages where people can be educated and be able to succeed. So to sum it up, to get the best out of this policy, we also need to remember that for the government to introduce this is just one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is for the students and parents to embrace it. And we are so hardwired in the original education system that it's very difficult for parents and students to be able to understand what are the key benefits coming out of it, and how to adopt it, and how to become successful in that. So it's very important that we let go of our previous biases, we free up our mind, and we become more ambitious. We try to learn vocational skills more. We try to focus more on vocational skills and less on memorizing. And then we try to see how best we can compete with the rest of the world. It's high time we do that before the world forgets us behind. With that, I hand it back to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
A big round of applause to Aashish Kumar sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful insights on the topic. So now, Kirtish ma'am, what do you want to say, and what are your observations on Aashish Kumar sir's views on the topic? Over to you, ma'am.
First of all, Ishita, I would really thanks to bring different people from different walks of life, right? It is not only educationists talking about NEP. It feels very good when every person who is performing a task in different walks of life talking about NEP. Very well said, Aashish sir. I would really congratulate to you that it was really beautifully done in beautiful words. And yes. As a director, you must be, of course, facing this problem that you are not getting skilled people for your organizations and for your companies. I would just like to add on, just if we compare, in the foreign countries, it is just 10 to 15% of the children who move from, high schools or senior secondary schools to the universities and professional colleges, yet they earn a good living for themselves. But in our country, our 90% of students, they move from one level of education to another level of education, yet don't live a decent life, right? The only difference is this skill-based education, this integration of education with the skill building. The only difference is this: the children in other countries like Japan, Finland, they already are possessed with so many skills that they can earn a decent life for themselves. And in our country, we are not doing it. Fine. Only the reason is that education is, of course, being carried out only in the name of education, and nothing else. Our PhD scholars very well rightly said that there are research papers which are not based on real researches. That's why there is no improvement in our societies. That's why there is no improvement in our system, because those researches are not based on real researches. Our people, our PhD scholars, they are not wanting to go in the field and do researches. They're just doing researches sitting on the net. That's it, right? Having ideas here and there and putting up in the words. So that means that it has got included in our blood to take an easy mode rather than to go for practical approaches in life. And this easy mode, we will have to destroy this habit. It has become a habit of our children also, right? And for this, all the coaching centers, all the tutors which are there in the evening helping the children doing their homeworks, first of all, those things are to be abolished. Schools, universities, colleges are trying to change, but parallelly, there is one more education system which is standing up in the society, that is in the form of institutes and coaching centers, which in fact kills the creativity of the children, right? Schools and the colleges will have to change because of the policies, right, of their own boards and of their own government policies. But who will destroy that gap, right? This way, parents and all those community members will have to destroy that. In case we will be just relying upon the educational policies of the educational institutions, I think we will have a better grip on it rather than a parallel education system standing on it. So the basic cause of failure of many of our systems in our educational system is because of this parallel. The way, the black money destroys the real money value, same way this parallel system of education destroys the real educational value. So we will have to, talk about it. Regarding gender inclusion, as Aashish sir said about gender inclusions, right? If I talk about it, I was really personally very happy when third genders were also included in our educational systems. We were just throwing our third genders on the streets. We were not taking care of our third genders, and now there are specific zones, specific facilities for those third genders also, which are included. And wherever there are areas in our country where the disparity of boys and girls is more, government has declared those as specific zone areas so that a specific policy can be built up. So congratulations, Aashish sir. It was really wonderful listening to you, and I really will congratulate for your ideas. Thank you so much to bring up that.
Thank you so much, Kirti ma'am, for your beautiful observation on Aashish sir's view. And thank you so much, Aashish sir, also for joining us today. So now, moving on to our next speaker, and now I would like to call Dr. Shubham Singh, sir. So, sir, kindly introduce yourself and please throw some light on today's topic. Over to you, Shubham, sir.
Good evening to all. Thanks all the panelists and their speakers. Mr. Aashish Kumar, I know you very well. I really hooked by your speech. The information you put, all the panelists